Look, this ain't for sing-alongs. I don't want you to get it wrong. I know what you was tripping on. You've been lied to your whole life, fool. The right to beside you. That's why you.
Hey, welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. So let's talk about the Money in the Bank ladder match. So I decided to do a list. Lists can be kind of fun. They're also kind of easy, but it requires also to do some research. But since I was watching Money in the Bank ladder matches, and I had some of them I had never actually seen before because they become essentially a blur when there's 2 or 3 of them a year, I decided to go back and watch them over the last couple of weeks. And I came up with a list. I got 10. I got my 5 best, or my 5 favorites, and my 5 least favorites. I'm not basing this on who won, but I am basing it kind of on the way of the person who won and crowd reaction and how well the match went and everything. And not really even if I agree with the decision, but how it was executed. And also not whether the person won the title or not, because I think that's silly. You know, you have to judge the match as a match. So let's start with the 5 worst to me. Let's start with an honorable mention, actually. Money in the Bank 2019, Brock Lesnar won the match, which would have been fine if Brock had just stayed in the ring and basically just, stacked people like popsicle sticks and threw them all over the place. Would have been fine. Brock Lesnar running to the ring at the end to shove Ali off of it was not fine. That sucked. It was so anticlimactic that it has to be one of the worst. Now, the only reason why it's not the worst is because there are other matches that were whole matches that were not any good. And the match itself, of the people who were in it, it was not bad. I mean, listen to the names of who were in it. It was Ricochet, Andrade, Mustafa Ali, Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, Baron Corbin, Finn Balor, and Brock Lesnar. As a match, that would have been great. Before Brock ran out there, everything was fine. And then Brock came out. And the match became essentially a squash match. How somehow you turn a Money in the Bank match into a squash because he just comes out there and hits pretty much one person and that's it. If Brock would have just broken a sweat by just throwing people around, and disabling them, that would have been fine. But this was stupid. This was a waste of everybody's time. I hated this. All right, so let's talk about my least favorite Money in the Bank matches, starting with number 5. Money in the Bank 2012, the SmackDown Money in the Bank. It was won by Dolph Ziggler, Christian, Santino, Lord Tensai, Sin Cara, Cody, Damien Sandow, Tyson Kidd, and Dolph Ziggler were the contestants. I mean, what a star-studded group that is. Fucking Lord Tensai. The guy who had like writing all over his face. Lord Tensai, probably one of the worst ideas in modern wrestling. Pretty bad. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything you could have done with A-Train that would have made him any good. I'm just saying it sucked. It was the shits. It was bad. It was boring. This match itself was just a lot of botches. There was a lot of mistakes being made. Of course, you had Vicky interfering to help Dolph win, which I didn't mind because he's a heel, but it just felt like nothing else really happened in the match. And this, wasn't the worst match in the world because there's 4 more I could talk about, but it still wasn't all that good. All right, so number 4 worst Money in the Bank to me, Money in the Bank 2012, the Raw Money in the Bank. This was won by Alberto Del Rio. The contestants were Alberto Del Rio, R-Truth, Miz, Evan Bourne, Rey Mysterio, Kofi Kingston, and Jack Swagger. This is the match where The Miz was taken out early and then he made his triumphant return just to lose anyway, which is a gimmick the Money in the Bank uses a lot. After watching it, they use it a lot. The old, we're going to carry the guy out and then bring him back in later. They did it with Carmella. They did it with Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean, I can't judge this match based off of a trope that they decided to use later on because all of those are after this match. But this match just wasn't very good. It was boring. It's hard to... That's the cardinal sin of wrestling in general. Just don't be boring. I just felt like this match was boring as shit. And they really didn't have anything planned for it. Likewise, Raw's Money in the Bank 2010, which was won by The Miz. The contestants were The Miz, Randy Orton, Chris Jericho, Edge, Evan Bourne, Ted DiBiase, John Morrison, and Mark Henry. This match was also very boring. It's just nothing happens. It's It's just so much ladder clanking that it's just a boring match. And I'm telling you, it's the cardinal sin, you know. And sometimes it's the contestants that you put in it. And this is kind of where we start getting into with the contestants that they put in this match. There was no way it could be good, just no way. So let's go from that was number 3. Let's go into number 2. Number 2, the Money in the Bank 2010 that Kane won. It's the SmackDown Money in the Bank. Listen to the luminaries in this thing. Kane, Big Show, Christian, Cody Rhodes, Dolph Ziggler, Kofi Kingston, Drew McIntyre, a young Drew McIntyre, and Matt Hardy. This match was not good. For starters, it was not good because Big Show had his giant ladder, his giant black and gold ladder, and he couldn't get it in the ring. So there's like 2 minutes of Big Show trying his best, sweating, trying his best to get that ladder in the ring, and he just could not do it. And you know, because the match essentially just stops while Big Show struggles with this ladder. It is the shittiest piece of business. And I swear Big Show is a worthless fat fuck. I swear it. He's terrible. Terrible. This was awful. Okay, this was awful. But the number one most awful Money in the Bank match. Money in the Bank 2012, the Raw version. That was won by John Cena. It was John Cena, Chris Jericho, Kane, Big Show, and The Miz. This match was boring as fuck. At one point, Chris Jericho utilizes a sleeper hold. I just let that breathe. He broke out a sleeper hold while John Cena was on the ladder. I was angry watching this. I wanted to just abandon this entire project when I got to this match. And I just said to myself, it cannot get worse than this. It can't get worse than this. And it really doesn't. It really does. Those ladder matches between 2010 and 2012, not good. A lot of them were just not good. They were terrible. Terrible, terrible matches. Oh, boy. All right, so let's talk about my 5 favorite Money in the Bank ladder matches. Let's start with an honorable mention. Money in the Bank 2016. That was won by Dean Ambrose. So the performers were Dean Ambrose, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Chris Jericho, Cesaro, and Alberto Del Rio. All right, so this was where you had, of course, Dean Ambrose won and the crowd absolutely erupted. He won the title later that night, but of course that has nothing to do with this. Just an aside. The crowd was hot for it. They were really, really ready for Dean Ambrose to finally get something. This had, of course, a lot of the fighting between Owens and Zayn. This is when Owens was a really solid heel. Jericho was just kind of there as to round it out, which is weird that he never won a Money in the Bank match or a Royal Rumble. You know, Cesaro was just in there to be technical wrestling guy. But it was a very solid match, and I really enjoyed it. And the crowd really helped carry it along, so I really enjoyed it. So, number 5, Money in the Bank 2017, which was won by Baron Corbin. So, the contestants were AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Dolph Ziggler, and Baron Corbin. And this match was really good. They did a story where they did a couple of stories in this match where they had Baron Corbin jump Shinsuke Nakamura before the bell, like during Nakamura's entrance. He beat him up and they carried him off. Like I said, they did that gimmick quite a few times. And he would return later to a huge reaction because he came back. And of course, he ended up fighting that guy. He ended up fighting Corbin off. And then they did the big standoff with him and AJ Styles in the ring. And they were, you know, I think this was before their WrestleMania match, if I believe correctly. Because I think Nakamura was pretty new to the roster at this point. And they tagged each other back and forth. It was really fun. The crowd was super hot. You know, there were some pretty big spots in here, like AJ Styles doing the fireman's takeover on the ladder. You know, AJ was dangling above the ring. He had the briefcase, but he was like dangling above the ring with no safety net and nothing. He was just sitting there kicking, and the camera was just on him. And you were like, if he unhooks it, he's going to fall. But if he's going to fall anyway, he might as well unhook it, right? So I just loved it. I just think this match was like incredible. It was incredible. It was really fun. So let's talk about number 5. I'm sorry, I can't count. Wait, that was number 5. I think I lost count. Yeah, so number 4. Number 4, Money in the Bank 2015, which was won by Sheamus. The contestants were Roman Reigns, Neville, Kofi Kingston, Dolph Ziggler, Rob Van Dam, and Sheamus. So the crowd was nuts for this match, basically because Roman was in it. You know, there was something about Roman's involvement in this match that took it to the next level, because there was a lot of, I guess, fear that he was going to win. I think Kane was in this match too. Did I say that? Doesn't matter. Anyway, this is where Bray Wyatt randomly appears out of nowhere to screw Roman Reigns over, and the crowd went nuts. It was not really even booing him. It was just that they went crazy. And what added a little extra oomph to this to me is the story. The story that Roman had the match won, and then Bray Wyatt shook him and took him off the ladder. Of course, they would explain this later with the anyone but you Roman storyline. This, of course, led to Roman winning the title anyway at Survivor Series, and then Sheamus cashed in on him. So, like, knowing that, going back into it, I really enjoyed this match a lot more. Which, of course, is not fair, because I said I was going to judge the match as a match. But as a match, it was still very good. And it was still very enjoyable. And it was also another good story where Sheamus had gotten injured in the Money in the Bank ladder match. So this was his redemption, you know, of him coming back as a conquering hero and obtaining the Money in the Bank briefcase. So my third favorite Money in the Bank ladder match, Money in the Bank 2014, which was won by Seth Rollins. The performers were Seth Rollins, Dolph Ziggler, Dean Ambrose, Rob Van Dam, Jack Swagger, and Kofi Kingston. Let me tell you, that Ambrose-Rollins feud was on fire. Just about every time they made contact, the people were going apeshit. This match was so much fun because of that. And then you had the superplex off the ladder by Dean Ambrose on Seth Rollins. You know, Dean Ambrose came back from injury. You know, he did the gimmick again here. There was this incredible backdrop by Kofi onto Seth Rollins where he bounced off the ladder. It was really good. And then of course, they tried to ruin it by having Kane screw Dean Ambrose. You know, when Ambrose had the match won, Kane came in, pulled him off, chokeslammed him, and helped Seth Rollins win because this was during the authority angle. Now, of course, this makes perfect sense. It dovetails nicely with Money in the Bank 2015, where, you know, when, what was it? Was it 2015, 2016, when Dean Ambrose cashed in the Money in the Bank on Seth Rollins? Because that got a huge reaction, too. But it's kind of like the whole breakup of the Shield thing, and having those two in this match really elevated it. It felt like, you know, at least one of those two guys was ready to go to the next level. And that's when you win the Money in the Bank and the Royal Rumble are really at their best, is when you have these two guys, at least two people that are ready to break through. They just need that. They just need a little push. And Seth Rollins winning this match, of course, led to him becoming a main event guy and a world champion. So it was badass on multiple fronts. It's funny how those things seem to work out when you do things the right way, and everybody comes out better for it. And it becomes a great overall story. Funny how that works when you know what the fuck you're doing, or at least you have some idea. My second favorite Money in the Bank match, WrestleMania 21, the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match, which was won by Edge. The contestants were Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, Kane, Edge, Christian, and Shelton Benjamin. This match was incredibly fun. I remember I did not see this match when it happened because I was not watching wrestling yet. I was not back watching wrestling yet. But I did once I heard Undertaker wrestled Randy Orton on that show, and that Shawn Michaels wrestled Kurt Angle. I went and bought the DVD, and then I was fully back into wrestling at this point. You know, when I went and bought the DVD, I was like, all right, I'm in. You know, because it was just really good, and this match was one of the reasons why. And it seemed like Edge winning was the right decision. You know, again, I was not that deep into wrestling at the time. I had to go back and learn how Edge struggled and how he was, you know, had mentally become broken. And this Money in the Bank thing kind of took him to the next level. It was very important, you know, for his character development. But it was also just a damn good match and a great spectacle. It was really fun. Number one, my favorite Money in the Bank ladder match, without question, WrestleMania 22, 2006. Rob Van Dam wins the Money in the Bank. This match was nuts. All right, the competitors were Lashley, Ric Flair, Shelton Benjamin, Finlay, Matt Hardy, and Rob Van Dam. Of course, they did the old take the guy out of the match. They did it with Ric Flair after a superplex off the ladder. Now, they did a great job here because, of course, the old story of Ric Flair being in that plane crash in 1975, and he was 57 years old at the time. So you had this 57-year-old guy who took a suplex off the top of the ladder, and then he came back. That shows incredible grit, personality, character, everything. It was awesome. But really took this match to the next level, of course, was Shelton Benjamin and his performance. All of the various springboards, like when he laid the ladder up against the ropes and ran up the ladder and springboard off the ladder. Man, that was nuts. His springboard off the ropes onto the ladder. Crazy. The fact Shelton Benjamin didn't win any of these matches is insane. Now, there's some really great Money in the Bank spots, but I think Shelton Benjamin should have been Mr. Money in the Bank. Like, his performances and almost every time he came out there, tremendous. Always did a good job, but he elevated this match. And of course, the crowd went nuts when Rob Van Dam won because he was such a fan favorite, and he was like, and people were kind of like, finally, Rob Van Dam is going to get something. But let me know what you guys think. Where was your favorite Money in the Bank ladder matches? Let me know in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.
Old non-aggression. Once that lesson sets in, you'll see a session, but you got an affection for no progression, regression. The best